Alright, welcome back. How's everybody doing? I just want to go over some basic things here in Lightburn that might help some people out. Might not, don't know, but let's just kind of play around and see if anybody learns anything. So let's go up here to laser tools, I guess, and we'll start with something like material tests. So a lot of people want to know how to do material tests. Well, you saw up there in laser tools, clicked on laser tools, clicked on material test, brings up a box. Has some basically default settings that are already set in here. These will work for some materials, but not going to work for everything. So you kind of need to understand what you're getting ready to run your test on, what your material is, what its burnability is, I guess. Flammability. So what we want to do is determine if you're doing something like wood and you're just engraving. You need to kind of think about that. You don't want to run your laser too hot or too slow because you're going to burn through. The only time you want to burn through is if you're trying to cut the wood. Now, if you're trying to cut the wood, then obviously you want to be a little bit more specific with your settings. You do want to run hot. You do want to run slow. But you're not going to do an engraving test when you do that. So we'll kind of go over that and show you how we change those settings and everything. See if we can figure some things out. So basically, we'll choose wood engraving for instance. If we just want to do an etch on there, not a burn through. I wouldn't run this slow. I'd probably start my settings out somewhere around, I'd say, the 2000 range. I wouldn't run 18,000 millimeters per minute. I would probably run closer to, I'd say, a 6,000 range. I just have 5 watts. I know that range really runs good for my laser anyway, so I'd pick that range. I had the 10% to 100%. I probably wouldn't run 100%, so I'm going to knock this down. Whoops, not that low. We want to put it closer to, say, 85%. So really don't want to burn any more than 85% at 2000. This is just an initial test, so just something we can try. Now my boxes don't really need to be this big either, so you can change this. I usually run these at about 3 millimeters each. I can usually tell what I need to know inside that size of the box. Now, if you're engraving, what you want to do is you want to check and see how this test is set up. It's set up for an engrave. You can also change this. So we'll click OK. So you go over here and you go to your material settings. It's set to fill right now. So if you were going to do a burn test and you were going to burn through this and actually cut the wood, you would set this to a line. And then you can set your power to a lot higher. You can set your speeds a lot slower. And when you preview it, you see it's just going to do a line on there. That means it's just going to cut that shape out. So you're not doing an engrave and you're not trying to actually burn the wood away, which could potentially start a fire. You just want to actually cut the line, cut the little squares out, and see where your machine falls in line and what cuts best for you. So something like that's going to work best for doing your cutting. Anyway, so we don't want to do that. We said we would set this up for doing engraving, so we'll set this to fill. We'll just keep it on constant power, keep everything else the same. I always run my overscanning at about 2.5%. You can run that higher or lower depending on whatever you want to do. I usually don't touch anything else. Everything else looks good. So I'd click OK. And then basically I'd frame it out. And I clicked that and my laser was sitting at home. So anyway, so normally I would frame it out over my piece. It would frame out a little square on my material. If everything looked good, then I'd go ahead and click start and it would do that initial test. Now, in that initial test, what I would do is I would find the area that looks best to me. And I know that it's going to need some fine tuning from there because this is just a general test and it's a wider range. So say that initial test I picked somewhere in the range of, say, 3,500 on my speed and say 45%. So that looked best to me, but what I would do is I would come down here and I would click closer to a 3,000 speed. And I'd narrow this down probably to 3900. Change that one to a 9. Change that to 3900. Now that's going to give me in increments of 100 millimeters per minute in my speed. So that's going to narrow it down a little bit more. And then I would change my speed. So if I said 45%, I would probably just change this, start somewhere in the 40% range, and I'd probably end somewhere here in the 55% range. I'd keep all my other settings the same, and then I'd run another test. So if I check that other test, if everything looked good on that, I could find a good number, then I would go with that. Sometimes I might even take it a step further, look at a good number, and narrow it in even more. So I might even squeeze something in, say I did come up closer to 3400. So I might start somewhere in the range of 3400 and go to maybe 3600. And then keep the speed or the power somewhere in the same range. Do it again and see if I can really fine tune that power and speed, so I know that I'm going to get one of the best engravings I can get. So basically, that's going to be your material test in a nutshell. Like I said, if you're going to cut, you can bump this power up. So you can take the speed. So if you're cutting, you can slow the speed down, say closer to something like 400 millimeters per minute to say, 600 sounds good. And you can do your power somewhere closer in the range of 100%, and start somewhere in the range of 80%. Now again, if you're going to cut, you're going to go in here and change the settings. You're going to change this to a line. Click OK, then you can check your preview. Shows you preview what your range is, what your power, and it's showing you that it's going to cut and it's not going to actually engrave. So that's how you do a cut. Again, changing your materials, you just have to think about what material you're engraving on, and just kind of understand how much power is going to burn through it, and try to make sure that when you set your max power that you're not going to burn through it at one of your slower speeds. And if you do, whenever you start your material test, just kind of keep an eye on what you're doing. Watch your canvas, wear your glasses so you're not hurting your eyes, but keep an eye on it, and if it starts to burn through, stop it by all means. Don't burn your house down. Make some adjustments and start your test again. So anyway, that's material tests. I think it's pretty self-explanatory after that. Anyway, some other maneuvering. One of the things I do is I set my laser to go to center, which is go to origin. So when I click on that, that goes to the center of my laser. So I've got some little pins on my board that I can block little jigs up to for different pieces of material. That way I can make sure everything's square to the center of my machine. So normally what I'll do is if I'm running a new piece of material, I'll go ahead and I'll run to origin on there, and then as soon as I get to the center, I'll look at where my laser's at, and if I'm not quite in the center, I'll go over here to this move tab, and if you see up here where it says move to position, you can type in coordinates. So as long as you know where your center position, I believe I've got mine set somewhere around the 202 to 202 by 199, somewhere in that range. I can't remember exactly because I said it a long time ago, and I don't just go to that position, I just move from there. But anyway, so once you've got to that position, so once you know where everything's at, if it doesn't look like it's off, you can move things back. So say your X is a little too far forward, you can move it back, 5-6 points, and you go to that position, frame it up, and see where it's framing. If you need to move it on your X-axis, you do the same thing. You can do plus or minus, move it to where you need it, check your framing again, make sure everything is right where you need it. Once you've got everything where you want it, you can go ahead and process your job and you should be good. If that's a piece that you're doing all the time and you've got a jig set up, so you can put that piece in that same position every single time, what you can do up here is you can go to manage. Now, you can type in those positions and you can save those positions by name. So basically you can click on add new and you can type on whatever you're doing. So we can just basically type in a test piece And if you've already figured out what your coordinates are, so those coordinates will be locked in up here. So say the 208 x-axis by the y-axis 193. You just type that in. So 208, 193. Don't have the z-axis, you don't need to worry about that. Then you got it all typed in there, and you click save. So next time you want to run that job, you go up here, you pull it up, and it's going to be in this list of saved jobs for you. So you can pull up that task, and your laser will automatically run to that position. So now my laser, it just moved, so it ran over the 208 by the 193. So you can do that now. Every time I put, say, a test piece in there, this particular test piece, so every time I put this test piece in there, I can just click test, and my laser is going to run right to the center of that piece. I can frame it out and, you know, watch it when I frame out, and then it's going to frame good because I know I've ran to the center and I've jigged everything up. That's probably one of the best and easiest ways to find position and get everything centered every single time. I center my pieces that way, and I don't have any issue. To me, that's knowing my machine and running my machine. Anyway, that's just a couple things. I don't want to run this video too long. YouTube doesn't like it, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button. If you haven't done it already, please subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.